What's up, y'all? It's Vitamin M here, coming at you with another bourbon review, and today I want to shake things up a little bit and discuss my list of the 5 best bourbons to have to start your collection. Now, these all serve as introductory bourbons. They're all relatively cheap, and they all cover a different basis when it comes to all these very major categories within the world of bourbon and some different worlds of whiskey. There's a lot of heavy hitters on here like a high age statement, bottled in bond, stuff like that. But really at the end of the day, these are the 5 choices that I think is really good to have to get your collection started and hit a lot of these major categories to see what you like. And a lot of people ask me all the time, what are your 5 or 10 whiskeys or bourbons that you really recommend for getting started? And this is typically what I tend to give people. So let's get started with the first choice here. Right off the bat, I want to start with Woodford Reserve here. Now, this first choice is really a dealer's choice at the end of the day. This is just supposed to be an introductory, well-rounded bourbon to really get you started. All of these selections on this list are at most $40. Woodford is going to be like $25, $27 or so, and there's other choices out there. There's Jim Beam or regular Jim Beam, which I don't personally think is as good of a quality product. There's Wild Turkey 101 that will do a good job of giving you those signature butterscotch caramel notes in a bourbon. But I think Woodford Reserve really nails this when it comes to the butterscotch and the caramel, but it really captures the oakiness and kind of that whole characteristic of bourbon extremely well. And there's even a lot of little subtle notes of more complex or other kind of tastes that you'll pick up in some more advanced or complex bourbons that are out there. Like Woodford, I really like the red note taste that you're going to get, or the red fruit, red kind of note that you're going to pick up, kind of like dried raspberries, cherries a little bit. That tends to be in more complex or more expensive bourbons, such as Four Roses, for example. And that makes this my choice to really get started. You can't go wrong whatsoever with something straight out of the heartland of bourbon, Kentucky itself. Next up for number 2, we discussed an introductory bourbon. Now I want to bring up bottled in bond like I talked about last week. And I mentioned this Old Forester 100. And oh boy, this is probably the best bang for your buck bottle that's out there on the market. This is $23 and it drinks much more advanced than what you're paying or even on the proof. When I first had this, when a friend introduced this to me, I thought it was closer to 120 or so. It went down that complex and that kind of rich with a little bit of the burn that I do like, but it only drinks at 100 proof, and you're getting the signature Banana Foster's note with tons of rich butterscotch caramel and a good sweetness and that good oakiness, but it's really that sweet and butter or a Banana Foster's taste from the Old Forester that really kind of brings everything together here. And this is an excellent bottled in bond here. There's also Old Granddad 100 proof bottled in bond that is also roughly $23 or so. I tend to prefer this one a little bit more, but other bottled in bonds such as the Bardstown Origin Series bottled in bond, you're going to be paying a little bit more at like closer to $45, maybe $50 or so for those. And good luck finding E.H. Taylor small batch as your introduction to bottled in bond. This is almost half the price, or you know what I'm trying to say. It's half the price, and it's an excellent bottle that is just a step below it, but you can't go wrong with it whatsoever. For my third pick here, I've chosen Russell's Reserve 10-year here. Now, this is a high age statement bourbon right here. So most bourbons, like we've discussed before, kind of really a minimum of 2 years is the gold standard, or really the minimum that a lot of them are aged. This one is sitting for 10 years, and you get more of that intense oakiness and really the characteristics of all of those barrels that go into this. I don't know if this is necessarily a single barrel. I don't think it is. Somebody correct me in the comments, but I think this is a small batch, but you at least get that difference in the age, picking up more of that char from the barrel and the oak and the agedness to it. It still has a lot of that vanilla and butterscotch. You'll get that in just about everything, but this is something that is known for its high age statement that's out there. There's other more expensive ones. This one's the most expensive on the list, being about $40 or so. There's other ones that are, closer to like 50 or 60. I think of Knob Creek 12 immediately, or even Knob Creek 9, which is going to be closer to like $40 or $50 or so or something like that. I wish it was $5, but this is honestly my pick when it comes to a very good introductory high age statement bourbon that's out there. It's 10 years. It's pretty solid right here. And it's 80 proof, or I think it's 90 or 80 proof. 90 proof, excuse me. And it drinks very well and very smooth despite the age here. It's more so the proof that's really going to deter you rather than the age from this. Next up is a wild card pick, I think, honestly, here. Everything on this list is from Kentucky, but it's really important to try craft distillery products that are not from Kentucky, because bourbon doesn't have to be made in Kentucky, as we discussed before. And this one, I think Redwood Empire's Pipe Dream, their bourbon, is extremely, very, very good for this pick right here. I mean, these guys are from Sonoma County over in California, so you get to taste a lot of the difference that the climate makes for the barrel aging process. They do source a little bit from Bardstown and MGP, but they've been ramping up on their own production. But really, this is something to get a taste of a bourbon that's tasted elsewhere in America rather than Kentucky here. I was originally thinking, 13th Colony might be a good choice, but Georgia being so close to Kentucky, there's a little bit of a difference, but not as pronounced as what Redwood Empire here. This one, you're not going to get as, let's say, necessarily more of a hot or full, intense kind of flavor. It's going to be a little more earthy and not watered down, but it won't be as full and oaky as that. You'll get more of an earthiness with that sweetness, but it's a good option to see what else is out there across America here. And Redwood Empire, for my money, coming in at $35 or so. Craft distillery products are going to be a little bit more expensive, but if you want to try something that's not from Kentucky, that's a great bourbon, you can't go wrong with Pipe Dream whatsoever. And finally, for number 5, I have something that's packing a lot of heat. If you want something that's relatively inexpensive, but drinks as a barrel proof selection, look no further than Old Grandad 114. This is barrel proof immediately for like $23 or so. It's relatively inexpensive, but you're going to pick up a lot of that burn and a lot of, I think, really the alcohol that really kind of binds all of the notes together at the end of the day. I tend to like stuff that has more proof because it's closer to what the actual juice is going to be from the barrel itself, and the alcohol brings all the notes together in my mind. But this is a great offering that's relatively inexpensive and a great introduction to those barrel proof offerings that are out here. This one, personally, this is a Jim Beam product, so I tend to be very hesitant with them because there's a signature almost peanut taste to a lot of Jim Beam products. So this one I drink if I'm in a good mood for it. But honestly, for the bang for your buck, this one is a great introduction to barrel proof options that are out there, and will get you started real well with anything that drinks with a high proof statement on it as well here. And there's some other categories as well I didn't hit on, such as Tennessee whiskey, high wheated bourbons, high rise. Those are some other options here, but really when it comes to bourbons, first and foremost, these 5 are, I think, the best selection to really get you started in all these different major categories. So with that being said, happy hunting, and I hope this helped you on your bourbon journey. That'll be it, folks, for this episode. Cheers.